Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for our webinar on the award in education and training at level 3. A few housekeeping issues before we start. The session will be recorded, so if there's any of it that you miss, or for those of you who are listening recorded and not able to attend live, then hopefully you'll get all the information you need this evening. If you have any questions during the session tonight, I've got a few slides with the basic information on, so some summary information. If there's any questions you specifically want to ask, please pop them in the Q&A box. We've got Kirsty online this evening helping us out with questions and answers, so hopefully we'll be able to answer all your questions for you. So Kirsty's just turned a camera on there for you, so you can actually put a face to the name. So let's get going. I'm sure some people will join as we carry on, but no problem at all. Any questions you've got, it's probably easier for us to take them at the end. And as Alison's put there in the chat, if you've got any technical issues, please pop a message in and we will do our best to help you out. So a very quick overview of this qualification. It is a level 3 qualification awarded by City and Guilds. It's deemed an introductory qualification and it's linked to further teaching qualifications. Broadly, it's known as a knowledge-based introduction. So it's focused on all the theories to do with teaching, training, focused on adults or post-16, so post-compulsory education, and it is not subject specific. So it doesn't matter what you're teaching or the type of role you're in, the theories are the same. And in fact, this is a qualification where you don't actually have to be in a teaching role to do the qualification. So going back to the fact that I'm saying it's an introductory qualification, it's an overview of the underpinning knowledge and theories to do with education. I'll go through that. There are 3 units and I will go through those in more detail on the next few slides. So you'll see the type of things that that it will cover. So you can do it if you're not currently in a teaching role. If you're thinking about moving into a teaching role, then it's absolutely ideal to do because you learn about the theories of teaching, you get the opportunity to do what's called a microteach, and then you get feedback from your tutor and from other people involved in the microteach if there is anybody, and it's an ideal way in a really safe environment to have a think about, is this the career path for you? Equally, a lot of people do it as who are already in a teaching role. Excuse me. So those who are already in a teaching role, they do it to put some theory and some meaning behind all the things you have to do as a teacher and all the things you have to include that are additional to the qualification itself. So that's why it's saying on this slide that it's designed to support career choices, to give you that initial overview in a safe setting. It's changed its name over the years. So if you've been talking to anyone else or someone said, "Oh, I've got a PETLS qualification," that stood for Preparing to Teach in the Lifelong Learning Sector. And that was also a level 3 qualification. It's very, very similar to this one, although there has been some tweaks along the way. So this qualification is part of a suite of teaching qualifications that City and Guilds offer, as was what people knew as PETLS, and that was the Preparing to Teach, Certificate in Teaching and Diploma in Teaching. So now what we have is we're going from this award at level 3 in teaching to a level 5 diploma in teaching. So it's a huge jump up from level 3 to level 5. That's why this short qualification is absolutely ideal for people who are thinking about getting into the industry or are doing a little bit of teaching and want a bit more background to what they've learnt. So the guided learning hours, all qualifications come with guided learning hours and total qualification time. The difference between the two is the guided learning hours is the time you spend covering course material, and the total qualification time is kind of a how long is a piece of string, but a ballpark figure that would include the completion of the assessments, feedback, everything else to do with the qualification. So you can see that's a total qualification time of 120 hours. Accredited qualifications also come with credits. So this is a 12 credit qualification, and it's 12 credits that are built up across three separate units. The assessment for this qualification is a combination of assignments. The assignments are externally set, so City and Guilds set those assignments, and they're internally marked. So they're marked by, if you do the qualification with us, they are marked by a tutor on our team. And the observation that it says on that slide there, that is the microteach that I was talking about. So I will come on to the microteach when I talk about that specific unit, because that might be a phrase that is unfamiliar to you. Okay, so now on to the content. So this slide gives you an idea of the type of things that the three different units will cover. So it looks at the roles and responsibilities of a teacher in adult or further education. It looks at the relationships with the students and everybody else in the process. So it could be an employer, a supervisor, internal moderation, quality assurance, anyone involved with the student, the subject area, and it talks to you, and any other sort of referral points, it tells you about the interrelationships between all of those roles within delivery of education. Inclusive teaching and learning, that's looking at all the different individual needs and styles those learners may have. So not just learning styles, but their individual needs. Do they have a diagnosed need that they have some clear coping strategies to help them overcome those issues, or are they undiagnosed needs that they've got some coping strategies over time? So it's looking at how what you're delivering can be inclusive to those with identified and statemented needs and those without. And often a teaching approach that is supportive, for example, with someone with dyslexia, is supportive for anybody. So it's not necessarily about teaching it everything differently. It's about thinking about the approach and thinking, would that work for someone with these types of needs? Looks at the learning and development. So what is the intention of what you're teaching? So it's looking at how you get the core content across and what the purpose is of the qualification that the students are undertaking. And of course, you can teach students in groups or you can teach them one-to-one. The version of the qualification that we offer dominantly looks at facilitating learning for groups of students, but group is anything over 2. So you could have small groups, you can have large groups, and obviously your teaching methods may have to differ depending on whether you're working with 5 students or 50 students, and whether you're online and whether you're face-to-face. I've talked a little bit about meeting the needs of learners. Learners can come with all sorts of different challenges, barriers, as I said, identified and statemented needs. So you've got people with dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia. Those can be statemented, or you could just have someone that comes along and goes, "Oh, I've never been very good at that. So what I've done is X, Y, Z." So it's about meeting the needs of all of those different learners and making the learning and the assessment accessible to everybody. So making assessment accessible is about giving everyone the same opportunities to succeed. It's not about delivering the same thing to every person. It's giving them the same opportunities. Then you've got a unit on specifically on assessment and giving feedback when you've carried out assessments. When you are planning your learning, then this will be about the order in which you're delivering it. So that's the sequencing the learning. That might be written for you because you might be delivering at a college or at a small training provider. That is the scheme of work that's been set, and that's the order that's been set. But it's also about you thinking about, did that work? Did that work for this group? Why didn't it work? What could I change? Then you've got planning and delivering sessions. So that's the observed bit of the microteach. And then a really big part of teaching is reflecting on what you've done, reflecting on the delivery. Think about the feedback you've been given. What feedback did you get from your assessor? What feedback did you get from the students? Think about yourself. How did it go? And what would you do differently next time? All really, really important. And you'll find that you're probably a bigger critic of yourself than anyone else ever will be of you. So thinking about what you would do differently is really, really, really valuable. And looking at that, triangulating that with the feedback from assessors and students that have been in the session. That's a broad overview of the content across the 3 units. So the 3 units that we've got here, these are the titles of the 3 units. So the first one is understanding roles, responsibilities and relationships in education and training. The second one is predominantly looking at inclusive teaching and learning approaches, and also delivering that teaching. So that second unit is where the microteach comes in. And the third unit is understanding the principles of assessment in education. Anyone of you who have done or are looking to do perhaps the assessment and verification qualifications, they're often known as TAQA qualifications. So it stands for the teaching quality and assessment in education. So that's why they're often abbreviated to TAQA. But that third unit, if you've either got that qualification or you're looking to get that qualification, that third unit there is identical to the unit in the assessment, the TAQA assessment qualification. If you already hold that qualification, then that unit can be taken as evidence. The certification is what's called as recognition of prior learning. We can take that certificate and we could submit that against that unit. If you're looking to take the TAQA qualification, if you achieve that unit within this qualification, then you're exempt from it in the when you go on to do the TAQA qualification. So there is an interrelationship between these qualifications. Little bit more detail now on the first unit. So roles and responsibilities. Talked at the beginning about roles and responsibilities, your role as a teacher, your responsibilities, but it also looks at the roles and responsibilities of the students within your group. What are you expecting from them? How are you setting expectations? How formally is that happening? And anyone else involved in the process, so potentially employers if you're in employment and you're assessing some staff as part of your role. Then you've got various bits of legislation. I think legislation comes into every qualification somewhere along the line, but it's just different legislation. So we're looking at the types of legislation that matter in an educational environment, and we would be looking at regulations as well. So you potentially be looking at good practice. If you are inspected by Ofsted or inspected by anyone else, then you might want to consider the legislation that's involved there. You've got things like data protection and GDPR legislation. What do you store? How do you store it? For how long? So a lot of the legislation you will probably be familiar with, but it's looking at how it relates to you in an educational capacity. Meeting your individual learner needs. So I mentioned earlier, different learner needs. So you could have ADHD. As I said, dyslexia is a fairly well-known additional need. Many people with additional needs, particularly when you're looking at the adult environment, they may have suspected for some time that they have some additional needs, but may not have had a formal diagnosis. So it's looking at how you meet those needs with and without the diagnosis. And looking at inclusive teaching methods. So is it online? Is it face-to-face? Is it interactive? Are you asking them to do some assessments within a set timescale? Does anybody need extra time? Is that extra time allowed? Do they need a reader? Is that allowed within the remit of the qualification itself? And I talked a little bit when I said about roles and responsibilities. I talked about your expectations of learners. So it's looking at the environment in which you teach. Is it online? Is it face-to-face? What do you expect from the learner? Do you expect them to be interactive? Do you expect them to be punctual? Do you expect how much attendance? Do you expect them to attend 100%, 80%? That type of thing. When they want to ask a question, do you expect them to put their hand up? If it's online, do you expect them to put their electronic hand up and wait to be asked? Will you use something like our Q&A facility or this chat facility? So it's looking at what your expectations are, how you're going to get that information across to your group of learners, and how you're going to manage it if they don't comply, which is always a tricky one. And looking at the experiences of others. So when a student doesn't hand something in on time, or if they always shout out the answer to the question, how are you going to manage that, and what sort of techniques are there? And then working with fellow professionals. So I've talked a little bit about learner needs and whether they're diagnosed or not. So it could be working with an educational psychologist and saying what are the strategies for this person that we put in place, or what support are we allowed to give them with assessments that they need to submit? Do they need any extra time? So do they need any counselling support? Do they need any learning support? How much learning support is available to them? For example, someone with a statement in need of dyslexia may be eligible for proofreading their assignments before they hand them in. And then the assessments that specifically relate to this unit, there is an information booklet. So once you've been through the learning for this unit, you're asked to create an information booklet that could be used within your own organisation to support educational professionals that you're working with, and a reflective account on how well the things that you've looked at have worked, or the things that you've tried with your learners have worked. So there's 2 assessments for this unit. And then moving on to unit 2. This is where, although the content is not subject specific, you can deliver a subject specific lesson. So this is the lesson that you choose to deliver in the microteach. It can be completely your choice. Looks at this, carries on looking at inclusive environments and how you're going to take into account the learners in your group, their needs, and your assessment methods. It looks at all the different teaching approaches that are available to you, and what the strengths of each one are and what the limitations of each one are. So there are multiple teaching methods and teaching approaches, and you may think, oh no, that one's not for the environment I'm in. But it's looking at where each approach would be useful, and where the strengths outweigh the limitations, and how it relates to the group that you're working with. You've got the wider curriculum. So in all taught sessions, a teacher is encouraged to include English and maths, not shoehorn them in where they don't fit, but to include them where they do fit. So you might be looking at things like terminology, if you're looking at specific types of terminology, things that they need to remember. It could be looking at the specific calculations that are needed, converting something from metric to imperial, or vice versa, if that is relevant to the subject that you're teaching. British values is important. There are 4 fundamental British values: rule of law, tolerance, respect, and democracy. So I talked a little bit in Unit 1 about behaviour management and behaviour strategies. You've got tolerance, respect, and democracy in there. So you could, when you're working with a group of learners over a period of time, you could set some rules, and you could get them to be involved in creating those rules. You could encourage them to respect the views of others if you're talking about a potentially a topic that's got potential, people have got potentially strong views one way or another on. Things like embedding IT, whether you're delivering online, whether you're delivering face-to-face, what sort of IT needs to be used, and that could be a computer or it could be other equipment that's used in the environment. And anything to do with current affairs. So I think it's tomorrow, isn't it? There's local elections, might not be in every area, but tomorrow is a great time to look at democracy. That's part of our parliamentary system, is democracy, and that we get an opportunity to vote. So talking to students about whether they've registered to vote, why they haven't, and then again you're looking at tolerance. That is politics and religion, don't they say, those evoke some very strong views of people, and it's there's not a right and a wrong. It's about respecting other people's views and having an open discussion about it. So I think there's two things tomorrow. One, there's elections, and secondly, I think someone said to me it's International Password Awareness Day. So it's not share your passwords with everyone, but it's think about how strong your password is. So all of the things like that, if you're teaching tomorrow, those are the types of things that we would be looking at. How are you going to embed these things in your lesson, and look at that student as a wider citizen than just the subject that you're teaching to them. And then you're looking at the resources you need, what you need to deliver, how you're planning what you're going to deliver, perhaps looking at the timings, how long you're going to spend on each part of it, actually delivering the session and evaluating it at the end. So getting some feedback from your students, if it's been an observed session, from your assessor, and your own reflection. The assessments for this, there's 4 assessments for this unit. You're asked to prepare a briefing document, and again that's to support fellow professionals within your organisation. You're asked to plan your microteach, and you are asked to deliver your microteach. So that is observed. Subject of your choice, and you're asked to do a reflective account. So you reflect on the session that you taught. You take into account feedback from others. And the rules on this is you have to be involved in microteach for an hour. Now, if you're in a group of 4, that could be you each teach for 15 minutes. You're all observed by your assessor. You all get an observation feedback form, and you feed back to one another. So you get peer feedback, you get assessor feedback, and you reflect on the session, your own session, and your own thoughts on the session. So there's four assessments for this unit, and the microteach is what people see as the biggest part of it. And just to give you an idea, when I say it can be a subject of your choice, sometimes people choose what they teach and they trial something with a group of students. Other things we've heard learning a new language, and I think we had Spanish. Making paper aeroplanes, and the assessment was how far they flew. Repotting plants, learning various parts of the skeletal system. We've had parasites, normal and more unusual parasites. So it can be a subject of your choice. Your assessor can support you in that choice of subject, and also they can help with the planning. You don't have to do it all on your own. Your final submission of the plan has to be your own. You have to deliver it, you have to evaluate it, but you're not on your own in planning for it and preparing it. And then finally, the third unit, I said on the one of the previous slides, it is the same unit as what the first unit in the TAQA assessor qualification. It is understanding the principles of assessment in education and training. So it looks at the theory behind assessment, what the purpose of assessment is, and how you can put together different forms of assessment to meet the criteria that the awarding body set. Like with the different teaching approaches, it looks at the different methods of assessment there are. what strengths there are and what limitations there are. So you might not always be able to observe someone, but they do say that observing someone doing a practical task is the best form of assessment that there is. But you can't necessarily observe them doing it 10 times. You might ask someone else to observe them. You observe them 2 out of those, the number of times that's required. It could be that you ask for a written statement and you authenticate that by doing some question and answer. It could be that you ask for a witness testimony. There's lots and lots of different methods of assessment, not all appropriate in every circumstance. So it looks at which assessment methods are good and when, and what their limitations are. And then who should be involved in that assessment process? Is it just you and the student? Is it you, the student, and an internal quality assurer? Does the awarding body have to be involved in any of it? Does the employer have to be involved? So looking at who to involve and when. Then the crux of the matter, making assessment decisions. What information do you use to make an assessment decision? And the first thing you have to go to is you have to go to what the awarding body is saying. What is the criteria that they say must be covered? And then you make a judgment as to whether that's been covered or not. So as an assessor, it is your responsibility to make that assessment decision. You can ask advice from others, but at the end of the day, it's your name that goes on that piece of paper. And that's what I always say to people. Think very carefully before you sign that document. Are you confident that person could do it more than once, more than the time you've seen it? Then the quality assurance processes. Anything that is internally marked will have a quality assurance process, and that's to ensure fairness. It's to ensure that all the assessors are assessing to the same level, that they've all taken into account the requirements of the qualification, and that the assessment has been applied fairly across every assessment. So that's an internal process. There's also an external quality assurance process usually, and usually it's annually. So for an approved organisation, so we're an approved City and Guilds training provider, and once a year for every qualification, an external quality assurer will come out and review our paperwork, our assessment decisions. They'll talk to students, they'll review our paperwork, and they'll decide whether we're meeting the requirements of the qualification or not. So that takes us neatly onto the paperwork we need to keep and that you need to keep in as an assessor, how long you keep that paperwork for, how you can comply with GDPR. So you might observe an assessment and you might want to keep some documentation, but you might ask the learner to redact that so that there's no breach of confidentiality. And then it looks at what's good practice in assessment and what concessions can you make and what is allowed as far as the qualification is concerned. So the assessment for this unit is question and answer. So there are 8 learning outcomes and there are multiple questions asked for each learning outcome and you provide a written answer. So in all of these units and all of the assessments, they're pass fail only. But if it's a fail at your first assessment, you will be given feedback and you will be given an opportunity to resubmit. So looking at this unit that we're looking at now, this third unit, there are multiple questions. Say there are 2 questions you haven't quite covered the criteria. They will be returned to you and you'll be given feedback and you'll be asked to put some more detail in covering for those two questions that don't quite cover the criteria. You resubmit it and it's remarked. So you get support every step of the way, and a fail isn't a fail and you can't resubmit. It's you're given feedback to support a resubmission that will then hopefully meet the criteria. So how do we deliver this qualification then? We deliver it online. All of the course content is online, so you can work through it at your own pace. You will be allocated a personal tutor, so it's delivered via our distance learning team. You're allocated a personal tutor. They will meet with you when you first sign up. They'll talk to you about your role. We'll look at which order it's best to deliver the units in for you. They'll set you a study plan. You'll complete that online material. Your tutor will contact you at regular intervals. You'll submit work for assessment, and we'll plan the microteach with you. All of your assessments, all of your work is submitted electronically, so it will be submitted via ePortfolio, and you will be given feedback on the same portal. I said a little bit earlier about the microteach, whether it's face-to-face in person or in person. Face-to-face or in person are the same thing. Face-to-face or online, that should say. I said you needed to be involved in microteach for an hour. So if you want to deliver the whole hour yourself, that is absolutely fine. If it is naturally occurring within your workplace and your teaching group, then we can absolutely observe that. If it is online, it must be recorded. So we must be able to show that to the external quality assurers. And all of the feedback, both from your assessor and from your peers, if you're part of a group, must also be included in the evidence. We allow 6 months to complete this qualification. It can be done much quicker. That duration is kind of a maximum. How long you take is up to you, depends on your workload. Some people come on and they want to do it relatively quickly because they're deciding, they're looking at a career path, and it is this for me. Other people are already in a teaching role and they're doing it alongside their work, and therefore it potentially takes them a little bit longer. So you can discuss that duration with your assessor at the outset, and we can certainly put a study plan in place that meets your needs. But your actual learning can be done at your own pace and at times to suit you, which tends to fit in well with most people that are doing this qualification. We can, of course, come online if there is a group of people wanting to do it together, or a group of people at the same employer, or perhaps in the same type of employer. We can certainly deliver online sessions to cover some of the online content, and you can then support that with the online material. So we have a platform called Big Blue Button. It's a specialist learning teaching platform that allows interactivity with the audience, and we can cover some online content that way, and then you still have some of the course content that way, and you still then got your online material to refer back to. The cost of the course is £550. There is a £75 registration fee that goes alongside that. That is the registration fee that City and Guilds charge us. You have to be registered when you start the qualification, and any work that you submit must be submitted after that registration date. So it's really important that we register you quickly for the qualification. And then last but not least, if you do take this qualification, where can you progress to from here? I mentioned at the outset it's part of a suite of qualifications. So the suite of education qualifications that City and Guilds offer is the Level 3 award in teaching and training, the Level 5 diploma in teaching, and that has been a specialist in further education and skills. I talked about the TAQA qualifications. That's those second, third, fourth ones on that list. So there is a Level 3 award or certificate in assessment, and there are 4 units to that qualification. You can do it in a vocational environment or a work environment, or both if your environment allows, and the theory unit. There is an award in internal quality assurance. So usually you would do that after you've done the assessor qualification. So once you are an assessor and you have been practicing for and are confident in that role, you may want to progress and become an internal quality assurer and support other assessors within your organisation. And then there is the last qualification in that suite, which is the certificate in leading internal quality assurance. So that is if you manage a group of internal quality assurers and in turn a group of assessors. Then other qualifications that aren't linked to the suite but are linked to teaching are the coaching and mentoring qualifications. So they are also available at Level 3 or Level 5. A lot of these qualifications are also available as an apprenticeship. Depending on that massively depends on your role. So to qualify to be an apprentice, your employer has to support you, and your role has to be predominantly in delivering that area. So if you were going to do a coaching and mentoring apprenticeship, then your main role would need to be coaching or mentoring. So it is usually it's coaching or mentoring. You do the theory. What is the theory behind coaching? What is the theory behind mentoring? And then you choose which one you do practically. And there's a different number of hours and a different number of coachees or mentees that you need to work with. The Society for Education and Training is the it's not a regulatory body, but they oversee teaching quality, teaching skills, and they provide lots of good resources, articles, research on teaching. They've got a great website with lots and lots of information available to non-members as well as members. If you are doing a teaching qualification, we strongly recommend that you are a student member of Society for Education and Training, because you do have access to lots of other materials from them, and it gives you the opportunity to progress to qualified teaching and learning status, which is it's the school's teaching equivalent of a qualified teacher, depending on the qualifications and the experience you've got. So the Society for Education and Training website is also a useful one for you to go and have a look at. So that's the end of the summary information. I'm not sure whether I can see there's been some chat, but I'm not sure that there's any questions that have come in.
I
can
do
see
have
there's
questions, Mel.
lots of questions.
I have questions. I have questions. It's such a valuable qualification, isn't it? For those that are just thinking of dipping their toe in, to those that are quite committed to moving into education.
Absolutely, yeah. And it gives people an opportunity. Like I said, I can't say enough, it's in a safe environment. You kind of can't get it wrong. The micro teach you're doing, you can do in an environment where it doesn't matter if it goes horribly wrong, you can do it again, and it's safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the key part, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
it's okay to get it wrong, because that's
Yeah.
where we learn from it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it
Yeah.
is.
Okay, so we've got some questions. Kevin's been very busy on the chat, and I've got some other ones that have come in from different directions as well. I believe that everybody gets a copy of the recording or the slides. Is that right?
Yes, I believe it is being
I believe
recorded,
it's
and everyone who's on the recording and registered will get a copy of the recording. So yeah, you can listen to it back, and equally more than happy to take questions after the event as well. If my usual is
yeah.
like, oh, I wish I'd asked that. So yeah, please
Yeah,
feel free to contact us afterwards if you still have questions.
lovely. Thank you. Kevin has asked again, does the qualification and the way it's assessed require you to be teaching currently within your job?
No,
Looking
not
to
at all.
obtain the qualification first and then deliver the training?
That's the beauty of this qualification. You can deliver it when you are not in a teaching role. So because it's unitized, there's that first unit that is all about roles and responsibilities that you learn the theory behind it. That second unit, which contains the micro teach. So that's where if you're not in a role, it would be you working really closely with your assessor and saying, and going in part of a group, what can I teach? And we can create a group if there's not a group. We can create a group and people can deliver different bits of different subject areas. It's really interesting, to be honest, when you are part of a group and
It
people
is.
deliver. I've learned so much from being part of
The micro
micro teach
teachers,
sessions.
yeah,
It's
they're fantastic. They
they
really are.
are, and like I said, that there were some examples that I gave. Some of the best ones are the practical ones where we were given instructions on how to build a paper aeroplane. And we had lots of different types, and we could choose which type we built,
Yeah.
and then we built it, and then the assessment was how far did it fly, and it was good fun. Um,
Right. One of mine was making butter. I learned how to make butter.
Excellent. Good life skill.
Fantastic.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, you don't have to be in a role. That's the beauty of this qualification. It's why it's a short qualification. If you're not in a teaching role and you're thinking about doing it to, I mean, if to decide whether you want to do it, but also from the perspective of if you are looking to move into education, if you, for example, you apply for a job as a teacher and you've already got this and you say, no, I did this to make sure it's what I wanted to do, that's going to come across really well because
Mm,
you've got that underpinning knowledge. You understand why certain things are done, and you're demonstrating that to a potential future employer.
absolutely. That kind of leads me on to my next question from Amy. Could I use this qualification to teach at a college?
Yeah, absolutely. Different colleges have different requirements. Um, as a college, we ask all of our lecturers to work towards a level 5, but that is eventually we would put them through the level 3 first. So, for
Hmm.
example, if you're an unqualified teacher but with lots of occupational experience that is really useful, we would, as a college, consider taking you on, give you an expectation that you get your level 3 within 6 months, and then from there you move on to your level 5, looking to gain that within your first 3 years of employment. The level 5 is a much bigger
Mm,
qualification.
yeah.
Um, Broadly will take you 2 years when you're in a teaching role. Um, so absolutely you can use it to teach in a college. The college you go to, any college you go to, may have different requirements. They may have
Mm,
the requirement that you have this qualification before you join them, or that you get it within a certain amount of time. But
yeah.
yes, you can use it to teach at a college.
Lovely. Thank you. How much, Claire has asked, how much study time would I need?
And that's kind of where that guided learning hours and total qualification time comes in. So
Mm,
48 at the City and Guilds set the numbers that are 48 hours learning the art of teaching, learning this introductory information, and then the additional time, the additional to make it up to the 120, is doing assignments, thinking about your microteach, delivering your microteach. We normally say if you can look to put in around 5 hours a week
hmm.
for a qualification, then you'll be
Yeah.
doing well. You'll be able to
Yeah.
cover the content, use some time to do the assessments. There's no exams in this qualification, so there's no end date, there's no exam date to
Mm,
focus your mind. So you have to be really, really disciplined, and work closely with your assessor, who they'll set
yeah.
hand-in dates that suit that work for you. You know,
Mm,
we're not about setting dates that are not achievable. Um, and so it 5 hours a week would get you through the learning material, get your assessments delivered, and
hmm.
allow you to sort of decide whether this is for you, really.
Mm, lovely. Thank you. Emma has asked, can I do this course? Or can I teach? A bit of both. If I have a learning need myself.
Of course you can. Best teachers have learning needs because then you know
Don't
how to
we?
work with you. No, absolutely, absolutely you can. And all joking aside, any additional learning needs you have yourself just makes you more in tune to different learning needs that other people have got. Um, if you struggle with spelling, if you struggle with writing assignments, and then we talk about one of those units was about assessment methods. What does the
Mm,
qualification allow? If you've got someone who is so terribly dyslexic that writing is very, very difficult for them, do a discussion if the qualification allows
mm,
that. So you can have a recorded professional discussion with them, you can ask them questions, and then you're giving that person the best chance of achievement as long as it's allowed within the qualification. So absolutely you can teach
hmm.
with a learning need yourself. My mum is massively dyslexic and was a secondary education teacher for many, many years. So yes, not only can you
Yes.
achieve the qualification, but you can deliver subject specific and really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it
And I
won't
guess
preclude you.
where we are in the vocational fields as well, not just from our college's perspective, but from any vocational college, it's having that experience, really, isn't it? That vocational experience, which is the key part.
Yeah, vocationally and working in a college, it's there's a phrase in vocational education and it's called occupational competence, and that's about doing the job, having done the job, and being able to still do the job, and it has to be current. So if we're talking about people who are want to go and teach veterinary nursing, it's really helpful if they're a veterinary nurse. You don't have to
Yes.
be, but
Mm,
you understand what people go through, what they have to do, what adjustments might be able to be made. My background's accounting, so I am an accountant. I did work as an accountant, and therefore I can teach accounting. I
Mm.
can't teach veterinary nursing because I'm not one.
But you could teach about numbers and things like
I
that,
could
can't
teach
you?
bits
And
of it, yeah. And
yeah.
again, that's the other thing. We have lots and lots of different people within an organization, and any college will have. And it might not be that you teach on one subject and one subject only.
Mm.
So we've got somebody who is not a veterinary nurse, but has got fantastic lab skills. They can teach on the lab bit.
Mm.
And they can teach about parasites because they've got
Yeah.
degree in animal, it's an animal science degree,
Mm.
but they've got a lot of experience in from their lab work, from their work in parasite identification, and they can teach on those elements within a veterinary nursing course, for example.
Mm. Fab, thank you. We've got Lisa, who has got an A1 qualification. Does that exempt from the assessment unit that you were talking about earlier?
Yes, it probably would. We'd need the certificate. I mentioned earlier this qualification that we were talking about tonight used to be called PETALS, Preparing to
Mm.
Teach in the Lifelong Learning Sector. The assessor qualifications have changed their name multiple times. They used to be called D32, 33, and 34. Then they went to A1 and V1, and now they're these TAQA qualifications. The truth is they haven't changed much over the years. What we would do is we'd need the certificate. We'd need to do probably a professional discussion just to make sure that knowledge is still current. So I would recommend, depending on how long ago you did it, A1, I can probably guess how long ago you did it, but I'm not going to say.
And we're not going to say what ours are called, though, are
No,
we? Either.
ours, no,
We're just slightly more
ours are the
vintage.
D32, 33 ones,
That's
so
it.
they're even older. So, but it's about currency. I talked about occupational
Mm.
competence. It doesn't matter when you got the qualification, as long as you still understand it and can still apply those principles. So it would be absolutely worth, though you've got the qualification, just scooting through that online course content just to refresh your memory if it's something that you've not used for a while. But no, you wouldn't need to do the assessment again.
Okay, super, thank you. I've got some more questions, Mel, if that's okay.
Great.
Two, we're going to go slightly off topic, I think.
Okay.
I've got two kind of questions. One's coming on with the main chat from Stacey. If I'm a clinical coach within a veterinary practice, do you think they would fund the coaching and mentoring certificate?
Good question. Um, we have lots of people in that role doing the coaching and mentoring qualification. What that qualification helps you do, it's a little bit like this one, but with a specialism in coaching and mentoring. It gives you all the theory behind it. So I'm sure as that you have been asked to be a clinical coach because you're one, really good in your role, and two, very good at supporting students through their roles. And you're probably doing that intuitively, which is absolutely great. They're the best people that we want to teach because you can already do it, and we're telling you why that's working. So we're
Mm.
helping you learn the theory behind it. So it's a fantastic qualification that kind of gives you that certificate that gives you that extra bit of kudos, if you like.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
not only have I got this role because I'm good at it, but I've got this role because I know the theory behind it as well, and it gives you that bit more confidence. You can also do coaching and mentoring as an apprenticeship, but at a guess, your main role is a veterinary nurse, and coaching is,
Mm.
as for many, many clinical coaches, an additional part of that.
Yeah.
So you probably wouldn't want to look at it as a specialism, but as an add-on to your veterinary nursing
Mm.
qualification. Yeah,
And we
so
do have
absolutely.
practices that fund that as well, don't we? We have coaching and
Yeah.
mentoring students at level 3 and level 5 that are funded by their practices.
Yeah, and lots of
Mm.
people that have found it really, really useful.
Mm.
At level 3, you have to have at least one student, maximum two, and you have to coach for 12 hours. So you have to evidence 12 hours of coaching. At level 5, you have to have a minimum of two candidates, a maximum of three, and you have to evidence 18 hours of coaching.
Hmm.
There's not a other than the duration of the qualification, you can do that over a period of time. It's not 18
Yeah.
hours in a month or anything like that.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Um, so we've got Liesel here, she's a relatively new head nurse. She's been qualified a long time, but a new head nurse. have we got any courses that would suit? So I'm thinking really the leadership and management would be a good course for a head
Yeah,
nurse.
and again, it's a profession whereby many people that you're a student nurse, you're a veterinary nurse, you're a deputy head nurse, you're a head nurse, you're a clinical coach. You do all of these things and you're promoted to these roles or given
Mm,
these extra tasks to fit into your day-to-day role because you're good at them and because they see you as that someone can help the future generation coming through or anyone else working within the practice. So within as a head nurse, you've got coaching and mentoring because that you can use that on your staff. So there will
mm,
be staff that you're responsible for. You've also got leadership and management. Now, there's leadership and management you can do. We've had head nurses do it as an apprenticeship because leading the team is their main role rather than clinical work if they've moved into that. There's also the power hour. So once a month, we have an hour's webinar. You can attend it live. You can join and also get the recording. And they're on different topics each month. So if you head across to our website, if you go to the business school website or the main college website, you will and go to the leadership and management section, you'll see a big section on Power Hour and it will tell you the subject for that's on every month. And you can join those just as CPD or they can be used as some of the learning towards a qualification if you want to
mhm.
get a qualification. Those are also available at levels 3 and level 5, award, certificate, or diploma. Thank you. Someone's put the link
Some
into the
put the link
chat.
in. That's great.
Alison's
That
put
led me
that in for us.
on beautifully because somebody asked they'd seen the advert of the Power Hour. What is it? So
Yeah,
there we are. Thank you.
it's our business school webinars. We're trying to make CPD accessible, so it is available live. We'd love to see you live, but it's also available recorded.
Thank you. There's a stat that I saw recently about leaders and managers and coaches and mentors that something like 86% of people that are promoted up into leader type roles haven't had any training.
Oh, it's huge,
And
and
it's
that's across
staggering, isn't
it's
it?
across all industries. That is
Yeah,
not specific to an individual industry.
absolutely. Yeah.
It happens all the time.
So
And you're
so that's
doing
a
that role usually because they see a benefit and you're good at it. And it
yes.
just helps give you some different ways to think about, coaching and mentoring. How do I get my student to achieve? How do I get them to meet their targets? And it's again, there's a lot of similarities between coaching, mentoring, and teaching. Loads. And in fact, the level
Absolutely. Yeah.
5, that new level 5 qualification, there was a whole unit on coaching in it.
Yeah. It crosses over, doesn't it? A
Yeah.
lot. Yeah. Thank you. We've got one more question from Kevin regarding about the VAT. Kevin, we don't charge VAT on our fees. So each of our courses on the website, which events have put the link to, you will in the fee section. That's as they stand,
I
and
think
they
there's VAT
vary
on the power hour because
power hour.
that's not going towards a qualification, I believe, because that's a short a
A
short
short.
webinar. We have to charge VAT on that, but our qualifications delivered through the College of Animal Welfare or Core Business School, we're VAT exempt and we don't charge VAT on those.
Excellent, thank you. And if practices or people, if they're students with us or they're associated with us in some way, they do get a discount on the power hours, don't they?
They do. I
Yeah.
believe it's £20 plus VAT for anyone. But
Mm-hmm.
if you are a core TP or you've got a student with us or you're a mentor or you've been to a webinar like this or you've got our code from our newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, then
Yeah.
I think it's half price. It's £10.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's all the questions. Unless anybody wants to sneakily put one in.
It's been lovely having so many people on this evening, and hope it's useful. Like I said, if you think of another question, which is always my trick, wish I'd said that, wish I'd asked that,
Mm.
then please get in touch with us. We're really happy to answer any questions you've got. You'll speak to our lovely client advisors if you'll call in, or they'll pick up an email from you. Really happy to help with any questions you've got.
And it's likely when you'll come through to Mel, myself, or
Yeah,
Gary.
they'll come through
Um,
to one of our team, and Alison's also put in there if you email admin@caw.ac.uk, you'll get a discount code. So we're encouraging CPD for everybody, and hopefully taking away some cost barriers to you getting it.
Absolutely. That's it. No further questions, Mel.
Fabulous. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll stay online until 7 in case anyone pops any questions in. Otherwise, thank you ever so much for everyone for attending, and we will send you out the recording.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.